moving out. How are all of your other classes going?
Well, it's going. It's going good.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not that bad.
Are you in 5 or 6?
What's that?
Are you taking 5 classes or 6 classes?
6.
Okay. It can keep you busy then.
Yeah.
Especially when they're all half online like we're doing, because you only get so much in person, then you got to go do all the work on your own.
Yeah. I only got like 2 in person.
Oh, wow. I feel like more students want the in-person classes.
Well, I'm kind of used to online now, so.
Yeah. Or maybe that they get more information when they're in person. I don't know. All right, let's see here. So, I have to go back to presentation view. I still don't like it very much.
I switched from State Farm because of this site. They have me paying $163 a month.
Only 2 cells are needed to create a baby. 2 cells and a miracle. In just 9 months, this pair of cells blossoms into billions of cells. Gently nestled and protected in a mother's womb, a tiny human thrives. Together, mother and baby share this journey of life, this magnificent adventure called pregnancy.
It's like that big on week 5. Oh, they have 3D imaging now. I forgot. You pay extra and you can get a 3D picture of the baby. Like that. What's that? Oh, they still have 45 seconds. Oh dear. All right.
I hope you enjoyed this video. Please click the link below to sign up for Pregnancy Chat, where it's our mission to nurture you through pregnancy and childbirth. If you know someone who might benefit from this video, please share it. And if you have any comments or questions, please.
Yeah, they've got so many
Josh Schneider here with some of my most recent
details on how to do like UV fertilization and like.
Fertilization is the epic story of a single sperm facing incredible odds to unite with an egg and form a new human life. It is the story of all of us. During sexual intercourse, about 300 million sperm enter the vagina. Soon afterwards,
That's a freaking
millions
lot.
of them will either flow out of the vagina or die in its acidic environment. However, many survive because of the protective elements provided in the fluids surrounding them. Next, the sperm must pass through the cervix, an opening into the uterus. Usually, it remains tightly closed, but here the cervix is open for a few days while the woman ovulates. The sperm swim through the cervical mucus, which is thinned to a more watery consistency for easier passage. Once inside the cervix, the sperm continues swimming toward the uterus, though millions will die trying to make it through the mucus. Some sperm remain behind, caught in the folds of the cervix, but they may later continue the journey as a backup to the first group.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine, yes.
Inside the uterus, muscular uterine contractions assist the sperm on their journey toward the egg. However, resident cells from the woman's immune system, mistaking the sperm for foreign invaders, destroy thousands of women. Next,
The white
half
blood
the sperm
cells, huh?
enter the fallopian tube, while the other half swim toward the tube containing the unfertilized egg. Now, only a few thousand remain. Inside the fallopian tube, tiny cilia push the egg toward the uterus. To continue, the sperm must surge against this motion to reach the egg. Some sperm get trapped in the cilia and die. During this part of the journey, chemicals in the reproductive tract cause the membranes covering the heads of the sperm to change. As a result, the sperm become hyperactive, swimming harder and faster toward their destination. At long last, the sperm reach the egg. Only a few dozen of the original 300 million sperm remain. The egg is covered with a layer of cells called the corona radiata. The sperm must push through this layer to reach the outer layer of the egg, the zona pellucida. When sperm reach the zona pellucida, they attach to specialized sperm receptors on the surface, which triggers their acrosomes to release digestive enzymes, enabling the sperm to burrow into the layer. Inside the zona pellucida is a narrow, fluid-filled space just outside the egg cell membrane. The first sperm to make contact will fertilize the egg. After a perilous journey and against incredible odds, a single sperm attaches to the egg cell membrane. Within a few minutes, their outer membranes fuse and the egg pulls the sperm inside. This event causes changes in the egg membrane that prevent other sperm from attaching to it. Next, the egg releases chemicals that push other sperm away from the egg and create an impenetrable fertilization membrane.
So some of the videos they have nowadays are kind of incredible and more detailed than what we had even just like 10 years ago. And that's pretty much like the first 12 slides we did on Monday. Let me see if I can get this to go. Okay, there we go. So, as they said, there's only like a few days where like actual fertilization can happen. Nowadays, they have all kinds of different medicines that I guess, like the pill. And I think what the pill does is make your body think that it's pregnant. So then there is no ovulation, and that way there can't be a pregnancy. Lots of ways to find out about the pregnancy, and usually most people do the P test we were talking about the other day, or even some will do the prenatal testing. Like if it's even like 6, 7, 8 weeks. At 6 weeks, you're only a month pregnant technically, but they would call you 6 weeks pregnant, and then they would find it. Like they do the ultrasound, sonogram, and they can also do like a theta protein blood screening, amniocentesis. These are things that they're testing to see if there's anything wrong with the baby. So again, as a social worker working with somebody that either has the want or need for a baby or like fertility testing, you go over this with them. So the timing and safety of these, like some tests you can't give at certain times. There are some non-invasive testing to get like cell-free DNA analysis, and some of the ethical dilemmas, again, as we mentioned before, is terminating the pregnancy if the fetus has a major birth defect. So that is illegal in some countries. Now, any birth complications, and I was mentioning earlier, are you guys? Do you have any questions up to this point? To where pretty much from here we're going to get into birth, early childhood, and then adolescence. So it starts moving quickly. Any questions about the genetics? What created your family? Any of you guys in here adopted? No. Okay. Sometimes that makes it harder to find your like genetic trace, but anybody done the 22andMe? You heard of the 22andMe test? It's like the DNA test, and it will tell you like all of the tracing, like what part of the world you're from and different, the different origins. So I didn't do it, but I think my brother did it. And what's weird is each sibling can have more of each parent in them. So like you could have like 60% of your dad's genes and 40% of your mom's, things like that. So other birth complications, anoxia and some of the causes from it, diet and whatnot, meconium aspiration and potential respiratory complications. So they want to make sure the baby's lungs are developing properly, and that's the biggest thing to watch for if the baby comes out early. Often their lungs aren't fully developed. Malpresentation, also perinatal difficulties like the cord wrapped around the neck, and then prolonged labor. A lot of times in the prolonged labor, you have the baby heart rate could drop so much that if it got, normally it's like 100 to 150. Like I think our resting heart rate, anybody know what our resting heart rate is? I want to look at this because I always forget. So like right now I'm 84 beats per minute. Babies are usually a little bit more. My resting is like 68. When you walk or walk upstairs, it's like 110. And they say you don't ever want to go like above 200 beats per minute, for your own safety. So that's the stuff that they watch for. Also, baby could have low birth weight, especially if it's born at, say, 25 or 35 weeks. It's premature. Prematurity is anything below 38 weeks. You could also have intrauterine growth retardation, which is prenatal deprivation that retards growth. And then if this happens, you have an increased risk for developmental disabilities. So again, as the social worker, we're looking for ways to support the child and the parents. Some of the things we have programs that are federally funded. You could get a social work job with your BSW and LSW, license in social work and bachelor's is like, there's a Help Me Grow program that's like helping with babies from 0 to 2 years old. And they just make sure you're getting the proper nutrition. You might help them sign up for WIC if they needed it, things of that nature. Other consequences of premature birth, you could have, as I mentioned, the respiratory distress syndrome. So like the lungs aren't fully developed, and sometimes you stay in the hospital until they are fully developed and can breathe better on their own. The treatment has to be provided with caution, so the hospital really has to do it. You stay in the premature ward if that's the case. So again, being a social worker on staff at the hospital, giving that support with the parents, because sometimes then the parents go home and the baby's living at the hospital until the parents can discharge them. You could also have retinotherapy caused by high oxygen levels. RDS often placed on ventilators, and then bronchopulmonary dysplasia is a complication seen in children placed on ventilators. So sometimes you're not getting the proper expansion of the lungs, and needing to watch for that. And sometimes the baby dies. So as a social worker, providing support and even helping them get funeral services for the baby, which would definitely be sad. So some of the psychological dimensions, the fetus will respond to pain and light and touch. So they can actually kind of like see through mom's belly and see that the sun is up, and like they sometimes shine a flashlight in, the doctor will shine it in. They can hear you at like a certain point. If you get a lot of spicy foods, the baby might start liking spicy foods, things like that. So they even have their own taste. At 26 weeks, they respond to sound vibrations. So they'll even demonstrate habitual learning. They'll recognize the mother's voice at birth. Some say they can even hear the father's voice at birth, which is kind of phenomenal. Mother's emotions can affect the fetus, and then depression, anxiety related to lower birth weight. If mom has depression or anxiety, and most recently they were saying it's okay for mom to be on the depression meds. In the past, they used to say if you're on a depression med, you have to stop it. And then 10% of the time is spent in quiet alert state. And then they learn to recognize when a baby has had enough, particularly in the NICU, the neonatal infant care unit. And then you can do measurements on that Brazelton neonatal assessment scale. If they're less than a month of age, they can assess their reactivity and regulation, like how the baby's intelligence quotient is forming and how they're moving along. There's some newborn characteristics that they can focus on objects, which is weird. Like the baby, they say it's 9 inches. So if you're breastfeeding the baby, they can stare the mom in the eye. And that's kind of, they're 9 inches for a little bit of time. They always prefer contrasting complex patterns, which is kind of funny. Like if you get around babies, you'll see, like if you have patterns on your shirt, they like focus in on it, like, whoa, you got cool stuff. If you just have like a plain shirt, they won't look at that, or they'll look at the ceilings or the ceiling fan. They prefer high-pitched sound, like a female voice, so they have a tendency towards mom right away. Babies prefer sweet over salty. That's kind of like any human, I would say. Acidic or bitter, so they like sweet. Even formula is made with a sweetener, and breast milk is still kind of sweet, like the sugar from the mom's body. They can imitate your facial expressions, like sticking their tongue out. I did that with my daughter the other day on FaceTime. My mom's like, "Don't teach her that." I'm like, she can stick her tongue out if she wants to. And then I know that I wanted to kind of cruise through some of this and give you guys time for questions today, because my fun battle today is making sure that I get to the chiropractor in Cincinnati at 4 p.m. because I had a car accident. Right now it says I'll be there at 1. Takes an hour, so 1:12. I'm kind of right on time. Hour and 13 now.
Starting
So,
route to Cincinnati
oh, good.
Chiropractic.
So
Head southeast on Brush Row Road.
some of their attitudes and emotions of regulation, they can be colicky. Have any of you guys heard of colic before? Have you seen a baby with colic? Right. Does it say the definition in here? So it's prolonged bouts of crying in the late afternoon and the evening, lasts from 2 weeks to 4 months, peaking at 6 weeks. So they're crying for 3 hours straight.
Oh.
And that has an effect on the mom's and dad's mental health. You know what I mean? As you're like, and that's where they'll put up some of those signs that are advertisements if you have younger parents that say like never, never shake a baby. And you're like, well, duh, why would I shake a baby? But when you got a baby crying 3 hours a day and you're like a young 18-year-old parent, you don't know, you're like, stop crying. And that, it can rattle the brain of the baby and cause major brain damage. So learning how, again, as a social worker, providing the support of how, to care for them, maybe even getting other social workers in there. Then here's the rule of 3 to diagnose colic. So crying occurs, there it is, 3 hours per day for more than 3 days per week, and then over 3 weeks long. So you usually diagnose it after that second week. And organic causes could be, it's only about 5%. So constipation, lactose intolerance, meningitis, abuse, and the primary causes are usually gastrointestinal. So it might be something the mom's eating if they're breastfeeding. It could be the type of formula you're giving them if they're on formula. So they'll always try to get breastfeeding, even if you do however much you can, and maybe supplement with formula. Formula is freaking expensive. It is like one of those cans is $35, and depending on how much they drink, the older they get. I guess you could buy that on food stamps. I thought it might charge on the health savings account card, and it does not. Like, we got an HSA here for health savings. It does not qualify there. So doctors will give it out for free as they're trying to get you to drink a certain formula, but it's best to stay on the same one. It's like the baby gets pissed, like we get used to our diet, even if it's just Pop-Tarts, you get used to whatever you eat. Anybody have nieces or nephews or babies that you've been around at this age? Yeah?
I got a little cousin. She's like 2 now, too.
Uh-huh.
3 now. So I go to like the grocery store or something with my older cousin so she could shop for her. And I'll see how much like the formula is and all that stuff.
Yes.
And I'll be like, what?
It's crazy. I've been starting to get it at Sam's. Oh, no, it's not going to work, of course. But that's kind of a good place. Anybody else seen or want children or don't want children? Obviously, it's like a full choice. You know what I mean? Like, nope. It's kind of a new, some, obviously, it's preferential. Some say it comes when you're like older and 30 and then 35. Right. And again, it is a full choice. Obviously, we went through like the how you get pregnant video. It's not rocket science, you know what I mean? There's several things you can do to not get pregnant. And and I think they're free now. I feel like in college they used to, like the health center, they used to give us like paper bags full of contraceptives or whatever, just to be sure that they're, for one, the STD transmission, for two, the pregnancy. And I will tell you, having a baby and trying to finish college, watching my wife, she only has, I guess it would be her senior year. She's at 90 hours. And it is hard to take 6 hours a semester. So I see why, like the counseling service would say, and certainly it can be put on hold or you can wait till later in life or things of that nature. But it's just like all a full choice, whichever route folks go with it. Um, it is very expensive raising a child in the United States of America nowadays. Because sometimes, like the folks we have at church are from both Burundi and Guatemala, and they have a lot of kids. And it's very natural, like where they came from, to have a lot of kids because it's the cost of living is a little bit lower, I feel like, but kind of having them in the first world, I don't know how to explain it. Does that make sense? Like it's very expensive to pay for not just formula, but schooling and healthcare and medical care and all that. Obviously, there are social welfare policies we've put into place to assist with that, but it still becomes very, very expensive and all kind of exciting too, which is I knew that I was going to wait. I didn't think I'd wait till 42 and 43 to have kids, but it's that's kind of the newer trend where you just kind of you finish your college and anything you can first, and then go ahead and have kids because it's it is a life work. But then when you're old, like I was saying, my back was out this morning and I'm like useless until I get to this chiropractor at 4. So I'm kind of laughing about it, but like, trying to help out and all that. I'm glad I'm at, they're like, now if you get here by 4 and no later, we can see you. Otherwise we can't see you. I'm like, great. That's how it always happens. So any questions about the Friday assignment, which is the eco map? So the eco map is next. We got genogram was the one due last class, and now the eco map. And again, the point being, we do this for our own family first and our own figure out our genetics and genogram and eco map, because ideally we want to learn how to do that. And I'll put the camera on it so it's that way. We want to be able to do it so when we see clients and first see them, we are able to do the eco map and genogram with them and kind of find out the patterns in their life and the genetics and whatnot. I know there's several routes of how they make the eco map and genogram. I feel like the YouTube videos in the assignment is the best description. It's okay to take a picture of this one too. If you want to use the software, that's fine, but I almost feel like it's more work than it's worth. Did any of you guys use the software? It's a pain in the butt. That's awesome if you did, but I remember it being too much. I was like, it will take a lot. You can draw it up by the time you can download the software. So that would be more of my recommendation. We are closing in on the end of this chapter, just some of the details and quickly get into development. And one of the specialties that I infuse into here is trauma, because there's a lot of research on trauma nowadays and how trauma affects not just children. And then they were shocked to see that even newborns are experiencing that. Then they were even more shocked to do the research in the womb and how it affects the baby. And there's entire social work schools of thought around trauma-informed care and how we approach it, and making sure to attend to our clients in such a way that we're using that trauma-informed approach, because there is the ability to heal from the trauma. There is the ability to get well and be of service in the community that you're in and whatnot. Now, if any of you guys in this class, you probably have seen it if you've had me before, have you watched Paper Tigers? the movie. I feel like maybe you guys would have. Did you have intro to social work last year? Right. What's that?
I had it online.
Right, yeah. So Paper Tigers is a movie about trauma-informed care. If you have already seen it and you're okay watching it again, I feel like it's going to be an important movie for us to watch. But I need to make sure that my my account is up to date on Amazon Prime. So it's like free on Amazon, and then Resilience is the follow-up to it, but just kind of the details, and that's as we get into childhood and adolescence, but that might be in the next few weeks. So see if it lets me run a trailer on it right now. Amazon Prime. Any of you guys have Amazon? Don't they give it free if you have a .edu account? What's that? Oh, right. Okay. Then you got to get another .edu account. All right. We'll finish with this one, and if you guys have any questions. Does this look familiar? I don't know if you guys would have remembered watching it or not. All right. We'll just do the trailer because I don't think it will ding. I don't know. Maybe it will ding.
In every school in America, walking down every street in America, there are the kids that get labeled, get rid of them, they're nothing but trouble. Lincoln says, right, hard. Assault, gang activity, truancy. I didn't hear that you was the school you could ever go to.
It's a nice fight, absolute chaos.
We could stop after the chat and say, oh, I was gonna kill him.
All of them were vetted out.
I was invited to go to a conference about complex trauma and what stress does to the brain.
The behavior isn't the kid. The behavior is a symptom of what's going on in their life.
My mom was like, and Shelly. She's the only thing I had. And for her to abandon me like that.
His coping mechanism was drinking a ton, smoking a ton.
I remember one night, I didn't want to be alive.
It hit me, and it hit me really hard.
You have to unconditionally love them, and you have to believe that their behavior might be out of their control.
I love playing guitar with several of these guys. Feel like that's almost as strong as anything we've ever done in class.
After that, he wasn't only a disciplined figure, he was a friend.
But his body had over a 3.2 GPA. To watch their confidence come back has been incredible.
I'm not by myself anymore. I got a team.
If I can do it, all of you can definitely do it.
It's not that I'm judging you. I know why you're smoking weed. I know why you smoke that. I know why you're fights. You don't want to feel. I mean, that's the big challenge is I'm asking you to try feeling for a little bit because sometimes when you feel, it guides you in the direction that you should be going and not to where you are.
All right, so that is the trauma-informed care has become a big, there's a lot of research going into trauma most recently. It's weird. I didn't think that I had started. So we'll get into that next week and the week after. I'm seeing any questions at this point? Are you guys following? What's that? So what I'm going to do is give you guys questions that we use on the licensure exam for social work. And we're going to go over those answers and explanations ourselves. If you guys are okay with that. If you really want me to pull the exams from the book, I can, but I feel like if we go over it as a group, it's more informative practice. So we'll just have papers and presentations in here. Does that answer your question? Is that okay. I mean, I certainly can pull the exams, but sometimes I feel like it's busy work. You guys like exams? Some people do. I don't know if it's more in biology or